Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020, and today I'm going to be talking about a 2020 electoral map scenario in which the Democratic Party and the Democratic candidate Joe Biden wins 5 million more votes than Donald Trump on the popular vote and still loses the Electoral College. So in 2016, I don't think Democrats need to remember that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote 4 years ago. She carried it by roughly 2.8 million, I think, more votes than Donald Trump, nearly 3 million more votes on the national popular vote. In fact, Hillary Clinton received the most votes of any presidential election candidate in history besides Barack Obama. So when we look at the numbers that she had, she received 65.8 million votes despite losing the Electoral College by a much, I guess you could say, larger margin in terms of percent. So Donald Trump carried 306 electoral votes 4 years ago. Where did this come from? This came from the Rust Belt. Now, he was expected to carry all of the swing states on this map except for Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Those are the only states that the polls had indicated Hillary Clinton would win. Taking a look at each state individually, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by 0.72%. In Wisconsin, another state in the Rust Belt, Trump won it by 0.77%. And the closest out of all of these three was Michigan, 0.23%. A very narrow margin, 11,000 votes out of 4.5 million cast in this election. So the reason why the Democratic Party is looking to win the Electoral College, obviously they want to win the White House, but they need to run up the numbers on the national popular vote because it is very possible that this type of scenario happens again. Because what we've seen is that the Democratic Party can win the popular vote by 3 million votes. It was a little bit easier to argue back in 2000. It's going to take a little bit to get there, but we go through up into the first election of this century. George Bush won the Electoral College by 4 electoral votes, 2 over the number 270. Al Gore received 266, one of the closest elections in history. Florida, particularly, if you take a look at the amount of decimal places, you can see that it was a very close margin. Less than 1,000 votes divided that state, which had nearly 6 million votes cast. George Bush won the White House without winning the popular vote. And this was a very big issue with the Democratic Party because since the 2000 election, the Democratic Party has won the popular vote all but once, despite losing the election 3 times. So looking at 2020, it's a very real possibility. And let's take a look at a map where this actually ends up happening. Because right now, Joe Biden, actually, real quick before I get to the map, we can take a look at where the general election polling, what it's showing for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's pretty much the exact same as we expected it. I mean, entering into the month of October that we will be in just a couple of weeks, or a week, Biden is holding a very strong lead. He's up 7% on Real Clear Politics. He's up 7% on FiveThirtyEight. He's up 9 on 270 to win. So looking at all these numbers, Biden is doing very well. Hillary Clinton only led by 3% on Election Day. She ended up carrying the popular vote by 3 million votes and 2%. So Biden should be pretty comfortable knowing that he could win the popular vote by possibly 6-7%, but at the same time, 5 million votes that, Biden could win more than Donald Trump and still lose the election. Let's take a look at the electoral map. So this is the presidential electoral map. I actually have started characterizing the safe states for for Joe Biden. I have yet to get there for Donald Trump. But let's quickly talk about the population-heavy states. This means that, these are states where the Democratic Party currently gets a very significant portion of their popular vote. The Republican Party as well. But at the same time, we're talking about states like California. In fact, actually, really quickly, if you want to see how easy it is for someone to win the Electoral College with just 11 states, you go through California, then to Texas, then to Florida, then to New York, then to Illinois, then to Pennsylvania, then to Georgia, then to Michigan, and then Ohio. And I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 states. I believe we are missing one state with right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 states. 270 electoral votes from 11 states. And the thing for the Democratic Party, honestly, they should look at this map and say, they have a very real possibility of carrying all of these states in a future election, or even this one. I mean, the fact that the Democratic Party has already led in the most populous states means they're getting a pretty significant portion of their popular vote from this state. And what we're seeing in terms of demographic shifts is that California is growing in its minority population. In fact, nationwide, with the exception of Wyoming and the District of Columbia, the Latino vote is growing. And they do split for the Democratic Party, usually 60-40, 70-30, depending on the region that we're in. And we're looking at California, and you're looking at New York, and you're looking at New Jersey and Illinois. These are all Democratic states. Now, if we were to apply the 2016 election results, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the other safe states because I just want to do this for the sake of showing you what the Electoral College does to the voting patterns. So you see that the Democratic Party carried California 2016, New York, New Jersey, Illinois. For Donald Trump, he carried Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas. Now, Biden currently leads in Michigan. He currently leads in Pennsylvania. He currently leads in North Carolina. He currently leads in Florida. So that leaves 1, 2, 3 states. And right now, Donald Trump is leading by, 1% in Texas, 2% in Ohio, 2% in Georgia. These are tilt states. Biden's up 8% in Michigan, 6%, 5% in Pennsylvania, up, 2, 3% in Florida, up 2% in North Carolina. So, Biden is having a pretty strong campaign season. And as we're entering into the final stretch, it's possible that he does win the election. But in a scenario where Donald Trump was able to lose the popular vote, and I'll say able to because that would be a very big feat, to lose the popular vote by 5 million votes, he'd likely have to retain most of the states he carried 4 years ago. He wouldn't have to retain them all because this would be a much narrower election than what we saw 4 years ago. Obviously, Trump wouldn't be winning by a deafening margin because he is losing the popular vote by a larger margin than in the past. But at the same time, he's still winning the election. So he's still going to be above the 270 map. So 270 mark. So we'll characterize all of these states. Biden still is able to carry, one second, let me get rid of Pennsylvania and Florida and then lock the map. So this is where the states, where the states really come down to in terms of where Trump could narrowly win the election. The Democratic Party would have to count on winning every single state from 2016. It's not too difficult to see. The same chance that Donald Trump has at winning the presidency is the same exact chance he has at winning a Clinton state from 2016. I believe at this point, Biden has a 95% chance of carrying a Trump state from 2016. So if anything, the electoral map will narrow up, and that's exactly what this is going to reflect, just that Donald Trump is still able to win the election, but only narrowly. So Trump would have to carry Florida. I think that's a very big piece of this campaign. Trump would be able to carry, I guess you could say Wisconsin and Arizona because that puts him right at 270. But realistically, maybe a year ago, it was possible that Michigan and Pennsylvania voted differently than Wisconsin. Wisconsin was the largest margin of victory for Trump, narrowly, but still the largest margin. And Arizona, that was a state that the Republican Party thought they had locked down, maybe not 4 years ago. I mean, they carried it by 4%, but it was considered a swing state. But 2012, safe red state. 2016 rolls around, likely red, lean red. Nobody really expected it to go to the Democrats. I think maybe one news company had it for the Democrats. Now, half of them do. And looking at the Rust Belt, it wouldn't have been crazy to think that Arizona went red a year ago while Michigan and Pennsylvania went blue. But now it sort of is. Arizona has moved dramatically to the left in just the past 8 years. They're going to end up with 2 Democratic senators. I'm saying it now. And they have the House of Representatives members that are likely to enter in 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans. And it's possible, after COVID-19, if it does go away by the 2022 midterm elections, that Doug Ducey does get voted out. So we're looking at a scenario where Trump is able to get to 270. And in this map, he would be losing the popular vote by a larger margin. There would not be that padding in Michigan and Pennsylvania that put him over the top in those states. He wouldn't have a larger margin over Biden in those states in terms of popular vote, which means it only adds to Biden's popular vote victory. Because regardless of how this election ends up, Trump winning or Biden winning, the Democratic Party will win the popular vote. Absolutely. It's a 98 out of 100% chance that the Democratic Party wins the popular vote this election. So it's not too hard to see by any stretch of the imagination. What it is hard to see is how Donald Trump would be able to carry Arizona while losing Michigan and Pennsylvania, or Biden not carrying Arizona. So in a map where Arizona did go to Joe Biden, Pennsylvania would have to flip over to the Donald Trump column. But still, in this map, Trump loses the popular vote by a pretty substantial margin. Now, I will say that the closest possible scenario would essentially just go through, Biden carrying Pennsylvania and Michigan while Trump carries Arizona. Now, this map that was released by, I believe, Dave Wasserman back in 2019, like I said, was more realistic because Arizona was a little bit redder than the Rust Belt. Well, now that's not necessarily the case, but based off the 538 estimations, they still expect Arizona to vote to the right. But it is expected to be a 5-6 point margin. Just the Rust Belt is expected to be a larger margin than that. I don't agree, but again, I'm not Nate Silver, so I'm not going to be adjusting that forecast. But looking at these states where, Biden is going to get a very significant portion of the popular vote, it's not just in Democratic states. It's also in Texas, where Biden is expected to run up to a point where he's at a 5 to 4 point loss to Trump in this state, which would absolutely give him a very significant portion of the popular vote there. Florida is expected to narrow up from 2016, more votes on both sides. Turnout's expected to be much higher. Georgia, narrowing up. North Carolina, Ohio, populous states that could be giving Joe Biden votes despite it being characterized as red. And yes, it may seem as if I'm ignoring California, New York as states where Trump is going to get a significant portion of the popular vote, but these big states on the Republican side are swing states. The big states on the Democratic side are not. They're not swing states. California is not close. New York's not close. Illinois is not close. So yes, there are some exceptions, but New Jersey, New York, Illinois, California, Massachusetts, Maryland, states with double-digit electoral votes, they're not close. They're going to be very solid margins for Joe Biden. Whereas the Trump states that he's relying on to land him at 270 on top of getting closer in the popular vote are Texas, 38 electoral votes. It used to be called the Republican Party's California. Not now. It's a swing state. California's not. They're not comparable by any means now. Florida is not. I mean, yes, it's a large the electoral college presence, but at the same time, it can swing either way. California, New York will not. So looking at a lot of these states where Trump is winning the popular vote in the statewide count, sure, he carries their electoral votes and wins the presidency, but in this map, he would be losing the popular vote by 4 to 5 million. And it would be very bad for the Democrats that if, 20 years after the year 2000, the Democratic Party had only lost the popular vote once, but lost 4 out of the 6 elections, there would be a pretty significant outrage amongst the Democratic Party. I think that would carry into the 2022 midterms. But then again, that's all for the American people to decide. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already. Check out the Instagram and Twitter at the bottom left of the screen. There's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. And please consider joining as a member on my channel. Check out the merch in the description down below. And I will see you all in about 6 hours.